Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be discussing and running through a quick review of Marvel's latest series in their lineup of series, I guess. That being Hawkeye, which dropped today. We got episode 1 and 2 today. It's going to be 6 episodes, so the other 4 would be throughout the month of December, ending on the 22nd, I believe, is the last episode. So a mini series. Each episode is roughly between 45 to 50 minutes. So let's jump into it. Of course, spoiler warning. And yeah, let's begin. So episode 1 starts off with essentially a flashback to 2012 when Avengers 1 took place, and that essentially is when the Chitauri attacked New York. So we see that flashback, but this time we see it through Kate Bishop's eyes, or her story being told then. And we see she lived in New York. She was living in a penthouse with both her parents. There seemed to have been some kind of hard times going on or about to start, because they were speaking about selling their condo. But that aside, we see that her home was attacked in the invasion and her dad died. We then jump back to present day, after we get the funeral with her dad, and she asks her mom for a bow and arrow, and she did that because she saw Hawkeye when that war was going on, that battle was going on. She saw Hawkeye defending himself, and cue the intro, cue Kate Bishop. So for those of you who don't know, I'll draw a comic book picture of Kate Bishop up somewhere on the screen, somewhere here, so you all could see her comic book counterpart, what it looks like. But essentially in the comic books, Kate Bishop is a younger female Hawkeye basically, and this series is based on a Hawkeye comic book run with that Matt Fraction did. So pretty good story as well. So let's jump back into the episode now. So the episode follows, we see Kate and her friends doing some stuff at school, and she destroys a clock tower slash bell tower. But the real meat of episode 1 goes into when she finds out her mom is engaged to this rich guy, and she follows the rich guy and finds that him and someone else that she doesn't like, who threatened her mom, is in this kind of black market auction, selling and buying items. And one of the items that came up for sale was Ronin's sword. So as you all know, Hawkeye had the Ronin persona in the comic as well, and in the MCU briefly at the beginning of Avengers Infinity War. That was it. But yeah, so we get Hawkeye, and just a glimpse of that. Nothing really new footage wise, but essentially they're selling his weapon and his costume. And during the sale there's a robbery, a break-in sorta, and Kate decides to save the day, and she puts on Ronin's suit to do that. And in doing so, this leads to where all the issues come up. So that's basically the gist of episode 1. Because when she puts on the suit, she gets in a little scuffle with the what do you call them? The street gang. I forgot their name. I think it's the sweat suit. I forgot the name. They're from the comic as well, but it's funny. So they were in it, and essentially Hawkeye took them down years ago when he was Ronin, of course, and now they're after him again, Ronin, and they thought Kate Bishop was him, so they're after her. And this leads to, of course, the end of the episode where they jump her and she tries to fight them off and she's losing, and then the episode ends with someone coming in to save the day, and it's Hawkeye. And then that's the end of episode 1. So episode 1 was a pretty good quick introduction to the character without dragging along. Of course we got teasers to the Avengers as well with Rogers, the musical play that Hawkeye and his family went to see Also, they're doing the whole Hawkeye being hearing impaired thing from the comics as well with the hearing aid. Um, so yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Now let's dive straight into episode 2, where it gets a bit more interesting. So he saves Kate. They go back to her place, and in doing so, he kinda realizes she's a bit talented. But while they're there, the street gang attacks again to get her, and this leads to her apartment being burnt down basically. So they go stay at her sister's, or her mother's sister's apartment, and the story goes trailing along there slightly because we see a bit of cutaway from that with Hawkeye trying to deal with his family things, trying to get his family back home now, and he promised them he would be home for Christmas, but now he has to kind of babysit Kate, make sure she doesn't die. So there's that. um, but there's something interesting, and that is something I didn't mention in the last episode yet when we discussed it, but I'll mention it now. And it seems to be basically the dog. He seems to have one eye. I would die for that dog. He's a hero. But essentially, the dog seems to be carrying some part of the plot throughout the story, and I don't know what it is yet. But basically, she rescued a dog that was being attacked. She carried it home, and the dog followed along throughout the story. So yeah, the dog doesn't have a name either. Interesting. But yeah, that is the dog wins both episodes. The dog is doing out both episodes. But back to the main story. So again, Kate realizes that the guy her mom is engaged to now is kind of like a scummy guy, and she figures he killed another old man, the one who threatened her mom. So there's a few divergent stories kind of converging now early on, because again it's 6 episodes, so they're trying to converge everything now. But this leads to Hawkeye kind of he goes back to the house that was burned down to get his jacket, the Ronin uniform, to kind of stop all this drama that Kate has gotten herself into. And he finds out someone stole it, and this leads to the funny part in the episode where he has to retrieve it, and he goes to this kind of Viking-esque reenactment. It seems like a reenactment, and he eventually wins it. Y'all should watch that part, it's very funny. But we then get past all that. He basically goes to surrender to the gang, and in doing so, he is taken to their hideout. And it's funny because when they're taking him and they put the bag over his head, he's like, "Guys, I can still see." But I digress. But yeah, the episode is pretty good. It leads to them going back to the hideout, and that is where things get very interesting for episode 2, because this is coming to the end of the episode. Kate tried to figure out that well, not figure out, but prove her stepdad is evil. She couldn't, but then she went to rescue Hawkeye, and she fell through the roof and messed up the plan, and now Hawkeye and Kate are trapped, and the episode ends with the bad guys. The bad guys are now calling their boss. And in doing that and calling their boss, we get the end credit, well not end credit, but end right before the credits, where they reveal us who the boss is, and she's in a red room, music is playing, and for those of you who don't know, this seems to be Echo, and the episode ends there. And yes, I skipped parts of the review going through the episode because I don't want to spoil anything major by mistake, so I just skipped around the episode to kind of give you a gist of what is going on. But this seems to be the street level villain build up for the heroes, because usually there's a bigger villain and then a smaller villain, so this might be the smaller villain for the Avengers to face when there's a next movie leading up to the bigger world destroying villain, But back to Echo after that sidetracked. Echo is, I believe, deaf. In the comics, I'll throw up a picture of a comic counterpart somewhere here, and then a picture of a real live action here, so you could see the difference. But Echo in the comics is actually the adopted daughter of Kingpin, and there's been rumors that maybe Vincent D'Onofrio's Echo might show up. Not Echo, Kingpin might show up to be Echo's dad in the series. So we have to look out for that. Hopefully he is, because there's word that we're going to see Daredevil pop up in the Echo series, because Marvel has announced an Echo series coming maybe next year. There was no definite date yet, but I would assume next year. So we're supposed to get Echo next year, and I would assume Daredevil will pop up in that as well, and maybe even Kingpin, seeing as he has a big role to play with Echo. And he may be the bigger street level villain going forward for now. But yeah, just a quick run through of the 2 episodes and what I thought. I thought both were good. I like the feel, the Christmassy feel. I recognize some of the songs throughout the episodes because they reminded me of Home Alone, or maybe they were from Home Alone. But there's the Home Alone-esque vibe to it, so I really like that, and the Christmassy vibe. So both episodes, very good. Can't wait to see what they do in the next 4 and how they resolve things going forward. Today was kind of hectic, so just a quick review, and I'll see y'all next week for episode 3, and we'll discuss in more detail then. So I'll see y'all. Bye.